It's the first of its kind for the Middle East. So this is a fund that will connect Chinese technology and Chinese business models with opportunities in the Middle Eastern market. So pan-regional plays, companies that are doing things in Egypt, Jordan, even Iraq, and then certainly the more kind of established markets in the GCC like the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The intention is driven by a very clear thesis, which is that Chinese built, backed, and inspired kind of mobile-first business models, be it e-commerce or payments or healthcare, whatever it is, will win these emerging technology markets. And so our view is, and we've proven this over the course of the last few years investing in the Middle East already, is that by taking these Chinese best practices, applying them either to local entrepreneurs in the region or building companies in China for the region, you create kind of regional winners.
It's interesting, it seems to me, when you say Chinese best practices, because when it comes to Chinese technologies, and Deirdre and I have been covering it, there's just so much skepticism around the security of Chinese technologies, and we've seen that with Huawei and 5G. And it seems interesting to me that another region is now more open, more receptive to Chinese technologies, and that's the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd come 18 months ago, you wouldn't see anything like this, but there is a massive pivot underway politically and economically due to kind of, let's say, G2G involvement. But certainly from a technical perspective, entrepreneurs in the Middle East are recognizing that by learning from Chinese best practices, they can accelerate their learning curve and build businesses that are more scalable, more asset light, and ultimately can win out their region by adopting Chinese practices rather than maybe things that were pioneered in Silicon Valley.
Now, Chinese built, backed, and inspired companies. Can't help but notice, because I sit in Silicon Valley, what happened to the American presence in a place like Middle East, North Africa? Why are we talking so much about China? Are U.S. companies, tech companies, trying to do anything in this region?
So you've certainly got the social media folks. I mean, in Facebook, Instagram, Snap, Google are obviously all very strong. The Middle East also has a reasonable presence of people like Amazon, who acquired a company last year called Souk.
And Uber with Kareem now.
Uber and Kareem, obviously, the biggest exit and really kind of the, let's call it the bellwether for the region that proved to entrepreneurs locally now that they can build companies.
Is there going to be a winner of that market, especially, you know, here at East Tech West, we're talking a lot about what perhaps a new tech world will look like. Are we going to see a decoupling? Where does the Middle East and North Africa fall into that landscape if we do see a decoupling?
My view is that emerging technology markets will migrate their way towards China through decoupling.
Where does that leave American tech companies?
In a precarious position. I think if you talk today to the people from the next billion users group out of Google, they'll tell you that because of their indirect business model, which is driven by ad sales, they don't control the onboarding mechanisms for customers to bring them online. So whereas Chinese mobile phone companies like Transsion and Huawei control over, I think in aggregate, 70% of the mobile market in Africa, Transsion alone 50%, they can onboard those customers and then introduce them to a closed-loop ecosystem.
Right.